Sydney's apartment oversupply. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, because we're going to have a look at this article from realestate.com.au, originally from the Daily Telegraph. Now, Sydney suburbs, where apartment oversupply is becoming a major issue for buyers. Now, we've talked about apartment oversupply, well, a few times. If you live in Brisbane, just go to South Brisbane and have a look at all the stock that's appeared up there. We can see here, just look at Sydney. All units, this pink line here, look how it's going down. You know, the weekly asking property prices are going down, guys. So we're back to 2017. Funny that. Funny that. And here you see, I just typed developers on my YouTube channel, and you'll see all the different videos I've done where they're giving away prizes. We looked at that the other day. They were literally doing like a meat raffle with prizes to get people to buy apartments. There was developers here in Brisbane where they were essentially going to pay your mortgage for a year, just giving you discounts, and they're dressing it up. I mean, it's smart marketing. You have to give them that. Trying to dress up a discount as a prize or something special or something you might just get. Think about it. People are probably, rather than just saying, we've cut the prices 15%, you might get a chance to get $500,000 back. What sounds better? Potential prize, or them being losers and having cut the price and everything? So I thought this is interesting, you know, that an oversupply is a problem for buyers. It shouldn't be a problem for buyers at all. It should be a problem for developers and sellers and investors in these apartments. It could be a problem for people that have already bought, that are expecting capital gains, that now the market's been flooded, it's going to cop a hit. Although building approvals have jumped up. They have jumped up again. You know, dwelling unit approvals, you can see there. It's up to approaching 14,000, which is still, well, you know, it's not nowhere near its heights. And remember, it's only approvals. They still have to materialize. So let's have a look at this article and see why you think it's a problem for buyers. So Parramatta, Mascot, and Rose Hill in the northwest have topped a list of Sydney suburbs oversupplied with apartments. These suburbs have more than 1,500 units in the pipeline over the next 2 years, which will increase the current supply of apartments by 13% or more. So just think about that. Sydney, like many cities here in Australia, is dependent on international students, holidayers, and migration. A lot of people will migrate to Sydney and then, frankly, go somewhere better around the country. Now, with that pretty much being tanked or decimated, saying decimated is a bad habit, isn't it? It's more than decimated. It's not just, you know, every 10th migrant isn't arriving. A significant number, the entire sector has pretty much been shut down. I've got another video we'll look at New Zealand, where their migration is down 98%. So it's devastation, and that's going to affect the demand for this product. A similar situation was unfolding in Gosford on the Central Coast, where close to 1,900 units were set to be built, which would increase unit supply by 73%. Now, you've got to realize if you've started a project, if you're already committed, there's a few things going on there that will stop people from pushing forward. The sunk cost fallacy. They may be concerned. They may be concerned that they've already invested so much money in there that they're going to throw money after it, at least to get something back. Whereas if you have a half-finished project, you're not going to get anything back. Maybe you could sell a half-finished project, but who's going to buy it in this climate? Or if you dug a hole, maybe then you've got issues with maintaining that, and it could become a water trap. So I understand why some projects will just finish it off. Maybe hope for the best. The oversupply in these areas has raised the risk of dangerous price reductions for buyers of units sold off the plan, according to Riskwise Research. Okay, so it's not a risk for every other buyer. It's dangerous price reductions. Oh, we can't have those for off-the-plan buyers. Now, off-the-plan, I can understand why people do it. I understand why developers encourage it. but it seems like an insane risk to me. It really does, particularly with all of the construction issues that that can manifest in buildings over time. You've got to remember, everyone, a building is not a factory manufactured item. It is a unique work of art. And I know I'm sounding like an architect when I'm saying that, but it really is. Because every site is different, all of what comes together is different, the challenges and issues that you encounter during the construction, they're all different. So their building needs to be weathered, it needs to be worn in, and often defects and mistakes will emerge over time. That's why you have a defects liability period. And that's why the body corporate should be insisting that the builder comes back and fixes it. Now, when you buy off the plan, you don't even know what you're getting. It's like buying a computer game, pre-purchasing a computer game on Kickstarter and all those issues that people have. It's, in some ways, it's the same thing. If you're in no rush, just wait. Wait, we're not in a climbing market right now, everyone. So, I mean, what they're saying is this is not a risk for those buyers. This is a risk for the developers that have sold to these off-the-plan buyers who probably won't get finance anymore. Some of them will lose their deposit. Some of them would be foreign investors. And I've shown this chart. Now, what happens to a foreign investor, maybe if they're over in China, they've bought an apartment, and, they'll just give up their deposit and do the runner. What happens then? So it could be a danger for some of these projects if their sales start falling off. Will the banks keep the finance going? Will they have to go to bridging finance? Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. We can all trade while we're insolvent, so it's all good. Wait a minute. No. What am I thinking? They'll just afterpay the construction and they'll pay for the apartment with no interest credit cards. Riskwise Chief Executive Doran Peleg said there was already risk associated with off-the-plan units, but they have been exacerbated during the pandemic. One of the biggest risks is that the glut of new apartment projects in some areas will coincide with reduced buyer demand, particularly from investors, he said. And we're seeing that. We've seen that. I did a video recently where investors were giving up to 15% discounts on their property in Sydney. Investor activity was low before the pandemic because of tighter lending restrictions, but falling rents and rising vacancies have created a further disincentive for new investors to purchase units. Unit rents dropped by about 2% in Sydney and Melbourne over the past 3 months, CoreLogic data showed. High-profile reports of cladding issues and defects also damaged the reputation of off-the-plan sector, encouraging more investors to seek out house and land packages instead, Mr. Plague said. Yeah, I mean, it is just crazy. Off the plan makes sense in a rising market, but then again, even in Sydney, in New South Wales, my understanding is that there can be sunset clauses where the developers can get out of the deals, and it is just shonky as anything. Other people can come in and buy it out from under you. It is, yeah. There's a whole element of risk associated with that sector. And then you also have to think of how these things are procured. That's my biggest issue with how they're procured. Particularly, design and construct for an apartment tower, that can lead to potential conflicts of interest and cost cutting. Investors who were still buying rental apartments unsuitable for families were taking an enormous gamble, with both equity and cash flow risks expected to materially increase, he said. Buyer advocacy group Buyers, co-founder Pete Morgan, said buying into oversupplied areas amid international border closures would compound these risks. So this is it an issue for buyers, guys? Doesn't seem to be. It's an issue for the people selling these things. Just wait 6 months till they get really desperate, then you get yourself a nice little bargain. I don't know why you'd want one. Because you couldn't raise a family in one of the... I mean, you could. Europeans do it. Just culturally, Australians, we're not used to it yet. We're spoilt with our big blocks. Which we should be, because the country's so bloody big. He explained this was because international students and tourism formed a large portion of the traditional tenant base in many of these locations. Buyers were better off considering more supply-constrained markets where properties offered scarcity value, he said. Over the medium to long term, it's the land value component of the asset that does the heavy lifting for you, and therefore buyers should look for a high land to asset ratio. Buyers were... yes. Okay, I'm sorry, I got a bit of a skip there. The unit oversupply issue has been with us for some years now, and our performance has mainly been in family-appropriate dwelling types in markets where demand is consistent and new supply has been restricted. So essentially, he's saying avoid these sectors with oversupply. Avoid them with oversupply. How many... I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to South Brisbane with just the number of apartments that are going up there. It's just nuts, guys. It's crazy. Buyer's agent and CEO of propertybuyer.com.au, Richard Harvey, said buying new apartments in outer suburbs like Rose Hill made no sense. While it may be nice to have a shiny new kitchen and bathroom, there is a significant downside price risk as the supply of land for further development is plentiful. In a market where prices are declining, there is a settlement risk for the buyer if they discover that the value paid for the unit has significantly decreased. As an example, Mr. Harvey said someone who bought a unit for 650 grand but discovered it was only worth 585 when it came to time to settle the property would have to stump up the difference, in this instance 65 grand. This can be a serious problem for some cash-strapped buyers. And then we'll start seeing, will the developers be able to hold onto their stock if they're getting off-the-plan buyers fall through left, right, and center? So, there we have it, guys. What do you reckon? What do you reckon? I think it's an issue for off-the-plan buyers. It's an issue for developers and investors hoping for capital gain. But for other people, just wait a little bit. Even some of these markets don't even make sense at the moment. We'll have to see. What do you think? Are you rushing out to get your new apartment? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create, there are a few ways you can. Simply watching the channel, engaging with the videos is a great way to help the channel grow. You can support us financially via joining the channel on YouTube or Patreon, using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin, buying our merch from HeiseSays or Teespring, and using PayPal. Take care, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.